Hey everyone, ready to see what happens next? Let's get into it. Chapter 29. Surprise Attack. It was a quiet early Saturday morning at the house. All the male bikers were sleeping peacefully in their beds, while the sole female biker was sprawled out on the sofa underneath a blanket. She had fallen asleep watching a nameless television show the night before. What no one was aware of was the pair of eyes that was watching the sleeping girl in the dark, their owner creeping up in the darkness toward the couch until... "Skylar, wake up!" Sky let out a shriek of terror and bolted upright, falling off the sofa in a tangled mess of blanket and sofa cushion to land on the ground. Having recognized the owner of the voice, she snapped out an indignant, "Jeez, Lola, what the heck?" The whole light upstairs came on, dimly illuminating the staircase. "What's going on?" demanded Raphael, storming down the stairs. "What's going on?" demanded Raphael, storming down the stairs. In his hand was one of the attachments belonging to a vacuum cleaner. "Sky, are you alright? I heard you scream." "I'm fine, Raphael," Skylar replied, sitting up and beginning to untangle herself. After a moment, she paused and looked back at Raphael. "If you thought someone broke in, you would use the vacuum attachment? What for? To get that extra dirt the vacuum can't?" she joked. "It was the first thing that I got a hold of. It was on the nightstand, and I was more concerned about helping you." "Why do you have a vacuum attachment on your nightstand?" asked Lola with interest. "Let it go, Lola. Raphael, it's all right. Go back to bed," she said, shooing him up the stairs. He kissed her on the forehead and walked back up the stairs. She guessed Alistair and Valen must have woken up because she heard two sleepy voices asking him what was going on. Turning back to Lola, she raised an eyebrow. "So, what do you want this early in the morning? And how did you get in?" "You guys don't lock your windows," retorted Lola. "Someone's going to break in eventually," she warned, poking Sky in the chest. Sky ignored it. "Why are you here?" she repeated. Lola hesitated. "So, Alistair asked me out on a date," she began, but was cut off by a delighted gasp. "It's about time!" Sky exclaimed. Go on," she continued, waving one of her hands airily. "I'm nervous. What if it's awkward?" "You'll be fine. It's not like he's an evil vampire or anything like that. Point is, I was hoping you could tag along and make it a double date." She pouted. "But that defeats the purpose of a date if Raphael and I tag along." "Please," she begged. "Fine," Sky replied sleepily, stifling a yawn as she remade the sofa, flopping back onto it and burrowing under the blanket once again. under the blanket once again. Several hours later, Raphael and Valen woke up and went downstairs, trying to be quiet so as not to wake up Sky. "Guess she's up already," Raphael said, walking into the kitchen. He perked his head up to the sound of water running, only to be shut off when they entered the kitchen. To their surprise, though, the person in the kitchen was a familiar redhead. "So, how was your night?" Alistair asked, looking up from the stove. Misha was perked on his shoulder, purring contentedly. Fine, except Lola snuck in around 4 or 5 this morning and scared Sky. She screamed, and that woke me up." "So that's what that was. Did you panic?" "In my defense, I thought someone broke in. You're really protective of her, aren't you?" Raphael did not get a chance to reply, since he was interrupted by the sound of a catapult being launched, and then followed by the sound of a balloon being popped. "Valen, you're so dead!" came an indignant scream as a bolting Australian bolted into the pantry. Following close behind him was Sky, who was fully covered in what appeared to be mud and sand. Alistair was laughing, and Raphael was torn between laughing and getting angry at Valen. "Sure, laugh it up now," Sky said in abrupt calm. "Valen, come out. I won't hurt you." "Lies!" came the muffled yell from inside the pantry. "Fine, think what you want," she said, walking calmly out of the kitchen. Raphael could already tell Valen was going to sorely regret ever pranking Sky. Later on, "Alistair!" Valen wailed, bolting down the stairs with panic in his eyes. "No need to yell," he muttered. "What do you want?" "Look at my hands and feet," he shouted, showing Alistair his hands and the bottom of his feet. Their surfaces were completely green. "Did you get into Sky's paint again?" Alistair asked idly, showing no concern whatsoever. "No, I tried washing it off, but it doesn't come off." "I'll Google it. Hold up," Alistair said, getting up from the couch and logging on to the computer. A few minutes later, he had the diagnosis, and there was no hiding the smell. "What'd it say?" he said anxiously, watching his older friend for a reaction. "It says that what you have is called dermatomyositis." "How do I cure it?" Alistair smirked. "It says it can be cured by painful incisions or shots." "I don't want surgery." "Hold on. It also says there's another cure. It says you should soak the infected areas in lizard urine." "Lizard pee?" Valen asked in complete disbelief. "Not only is that disgusting, but how am I supposed to get it?" "Ask Amber," replied Alistair with a shrug. The Australian promptly took off to the basement to find what he was looking for, prepackaged in Amber's lair. "Where's Valen?" Raphael asked as he came out of the kitchen. "I heard him come down earlier." "He apparently has a disease called dermatomuculitis that turns your hands and feet green. Raphael raised his eyebrow. I've never heard of a disease like that. Alistair smirked. Sky has. Hey guys, Sky said, bouncing down the stairs. What's all of the commotion about? It's Valen. What's on your hand? Raphael inquired when he noticed part of her hands were green. Huh? She asked, looking at her hands in surprise. I was painting, she said, smiling. Well, I'm going to take Jasper out. See how... And with that, she hollered for Jasper and bolted out the room. You're going upstairs to check out her room, aren't you? Alistair asked, not removing his gaze from the computer when Raphael started up the stairs. I'm beginning to get what's going on, but I want to see things for myself, came his response as he disappeared from view. Sky's room. Raphael opened the door cautiously and eyed the room, looking for any types of traps. He knew Sky wasn't the type to set traps, but he figured that it was better to be safe than sorry. He fully entered the room and looked around, taking care not to disturb anything or to open drawers. As he came to the far side of the room where Sky's artist easel was, he noticed a high-tech spray painter. Can in the corner behind the easel. And what do you know? It had green paint. I thought so. I think I know what's going on. Later on. Hey, Valen, Sky said brightly as she entered the family room, only to find the Australian sitting on the couch with his hands and feet in 4 different containers filled with what looked and smelled like lizard pee. Raphael looked truthfully unhappy with this as he read his book. What are you doing? Valen sighed. I have it's a skin condition that makes your hands and feet turn green. Oh my gosh, she said sympathetically, sitting on the couch next to him. Yeah, Alistair googled it, and the least painful cure is soaking the infected areas in lizard pee. Oh, you poor thing, she said. You know, there's another way to get rid of it. Valen looked up hopefully at her. Tell me, he said, a desperate expression on his face. My feet and hands are gonna smell like this forever at this rate. Next time, don't catapult a balloon filled with mud at me, said Sky innocently. What? How's that supposed to? Oh, you're gonna be kidding me, he roared furiously, rising to his feet. He took his hands out of the containers. To strangle was about the time Raphael stepped in. Valen, 2 things. 1, don't you dare start tracking lizard pee through the family room. It's on your feet and I'm not cleaning it up. 2, you hurt Sky and you'll regret it, he said sternly. The barest hint of a threat in his was enough to get Valen to sit back down, and he folded his hands over his chest sullenly while Sky handed him a towel. He dried his feet off with it and got out of the chair. How do I get rid of this crud on my hands? Makeup remover, Sky said promptly. I have some in the bathroom. Oh, and Valen? What? You've got something right here, she pointed out, gesturing to a spot under her own nose in emphasis. Right here? Right here? Valen asked for clarification, mimicking her. Seconds later, he realized he'd been tricked, and a look of disgust crossed his features. Oh, come on, Sky! That's nasty! Ruth, once again lifting his hands to strangle her. Valen! Valen? Raphael's voice was just a bit sharper this time. Fine, grumbled Inigo irritably, stomping up the stairs angrily. But there's revenge coming. Bring it, called Sky after him cheerfully. Once the teen was successfully out of view, she plopped down on the couch, laughing. Raphael sat next to her. You do know that he'll be true to his word, right? I know, she said, smirking. I'll always be one step ahead of him. Raphael looked at her and was about to say something until he heard the sound of a balloon popping and the sound of a splash, followed by an extremely familiar scream. Oh, come on! Chapter 30. Who knew horror movies were so great? Raphael, Skylar began, pouncing up and down on the balls of her feet heavily. I know that tone. She wants something. Yes, Skylar? He asked, turning his head to look at her. It had been his turn to do the dishes, and at the moment he was elbow high in soap suds, so he kept his hands in the sink. You love me, right? She asked innocently, wrapping her arms around his waist. Understatement of the year. What do you want? He asked, taking his hands out of the water and drying them on the nearest towel. I'm hurt, Raphael. What makes you think I want something? She asked in feigned outrage, placing a hand over her heart. Because you only use that voice when there's something you want, he said knowledgeably, as he walked to the kitchen table, sitting down in the nearest chair. Sighing, Skylar bounded over and sat herself down on his lap. Am I that predictable? In a word, yes. What's up? So, you remember when Lola snuck into the house and scared me? Kind of hard to forget, actually. Does what you're about to tell me have to do with that? Yep, she said, smiling. She told me that Alistair asked her out on a date. It's about time, Raphael stated. I know. That's exactly what I said, replied Sky. Anyways, she asked me if you and I could go with them to make it a double date. I kinda want to go. I'm sure Alistair could use the company, since he's new to the whole dating thing, she concluded. So what do you say? I don't think... Please, pleaded Sky, her face melting into a perfected puppy pout. Crap, that look doesn't work on me anymore, Sky, he said, trying to look away. When he looked back, though, it was to find that her expression had intensified. Fine, you win, he sighed. The puppy pout melted off her face, and she leapt off his lap, giving him a kiss on the cheek. Thank you, Raphael, she exclaimed, boarding out of the house in excitement to most likely go to Lola's. He watched her go with amusement before walking back over to the sink to do the dishes again. Crazy girl. And she's all yours, Alistair said, walking down the stairs. So what did she ask? I heard the puppy dog voice. Raphael ran a hand through his short blonde hair, suddenly realizing he had to give an explanation. Mind doing a double date tonight? He asked. Sky wanted to come along with you guys. You're kidding. That's what she asked you? He said, looking at his older friend in disbelief. Where were you two going to go anyway? Asked Raphael curiously. Dinner, bowling, and then end the night with the movie, he said, sitting down. Sensing her second favorite master sitting down, Misha padded into the kitchen and leaped into Alistair's lap. Lola asked her to go, didn't she? He continued, the realization dawning on his face. Yeah, admitted Raphael. Something about an awkward situation? How it was a planned awkward. How is what I planned awkward? Alistair retorted. I don't think Lola meant it as an insult. She doesn't know what to expect from you, he offered calmly. Next time she'll probably go alone with you, but tonight she's just seeing how it goes. Alistair pondered over this and then sighed. I'll take your word for it, he said. I think Lola's main concern is the dinner part. Normally you aren't that talkative, which means she'd have to offer the topics. Then there's the fact you usually give one-word answers to everything. The redhead gained a contemplative flow. I guess you have a point, he said at last. So where's Valen? Alistair asked, scanning the room for the bushy-haired Australian. He's over at Amber's. Something about working on an experiment. Well, as long as he doesn't blow anything expensive up, I don't care. With the girls. Raphael said he'd take me with you guys, I said, plopping myself down onto Lola's bed and reaching for a 17 magazine that was on it. Sweet, she exclaimed, running into her closet to pick her outfit out. She'd already gotten her hair done when I arrived, pulling it up into a messy updo that still managed to look as if she'd gotten it professionally done. You know, Alistair was not entirely happy about that, though. I know, replied Lola from somewhere inside the closet. He doesn't have the greatest social skills. I'm just figuring out how to interact with him, that's all. I heard her rummaging around. Deciding on an outfit? I asked. Actually, I already have it. I'm just trying to accessorize, she called. That's new. You already have something planned? Normally it takes you hours to pick an outfit out, I said, surprised. Yeah, well, this time I had help, she said as she stepped out of the closet. I looked up from the magazine, and I can honestly say that I had a shocked expression plastered onto my face when I saw what she was wearing. It was a purple sequin spaghetti strap dress. Lola had complemented the outfit with a pair of strappy high-heel sandals and golden wristbands. Ta-da! I still have to put makeup on and paint my nails, but beyond that, you're looking at my day-night outfit. When did you pick this out? I asked her, feeling impressed. I merely accessorized, chica. Alistair's the one who picked the dress. Dang, I whistled. Alistair has taste after all. Are we sure he's not gay? I continued with a snicker. Haha, very funny, she retorted sarcastically. Go back home and get ready, silly. No way I'm being seen with you when you're wearing that. Fine, fine, I reply, reluctantly getting off Lola's bed. Her bed is so comfortable. What time is it? Alistair asked, pacing the room. Since the last time you've asked me, Raphael started, looking at his watch. It's been 50 seconds. She'll be here soon. She better. I'm here. Don't get your panties in a bunch. Both male bikers looked to the stairs, where Sky was descending them with a bounce to her step. She was wearing a blue tank top over a long-sleeve shirt. The design gave the long sleeves a spider-webbed appearance, a part of the sleeve's cuff coming off her middle finger to keep the shirt in place. It also exposed her shoulders beneath the blue tank top she was wearing. Sky had added to that look by giving herself skinny jeans and black calf-high boots. Raphael's mouth dropped open. If that's the reason you were taking so long, then I don't mind it. Thanks, she said, turning pink as she took her phone out of her pocket. Lola's here, she continued. She just texted me. Sky opened the door and allowed her best friend in the house. Alistair looked her over with barely noticeable approval, and he stopped pacing the room. So are we ready to go? Asked Lola, putting a hand on her hip. The other three exchanged glances before nodding in agreement. In a few minutes, they were all out the door, although Alistair accidentally tripped Lola as she tried to get into Sky's car. At the movie theater. What movie is this? Alistair asked, sitting next to Lola in the theater. Sky picked it out. With her, it could be anything, the girl replied with a shrug. Better not be a chick flick. I don't think I could sit through one of those, he muttered. I like those, said Lola defensively. Name one decent chick flick that doesn't involve the fluffy power of friendship or sappy romance. Before Lola could retort, Sky returned, leaping lightly over the back of the seat and landing between Raphael and Lola's other side. Because of Raphael's inability to squeeze into the middle of the aisle, he was seated at the end. Nope, no worries, Alistair. This isn't a chick flick. Lola eyed her friend uncertainly. I'm not sure I like that look on your face, Sky. What movie is this? You wouldn't even let us look at the tickets. Oh, nothing much. Just a showing for both paranormals. Lola stared, her face beaming. Sky, you mean to tell us that we're watching horror flicks? Yup. I haven't seen these, but I heard they were fairly good. Lucky thing this theater's showing it again, right? Your definition of lucky needs serious re-evaluating, Lola deadpanned. Raphael raised an eyebrow, waiting until the girl had engaged in a heated discussion with Alistair about the benefits of chick flicks before looking to Sky. You had to have known that Lola doesn't like this kind of movies. Why pick them for a date? Duh, because Lola latched onto the nearest person whenever she has to watch these things. Why do you think I put an empty seat between us and them? She replied in a low voice, making sure Lola wasn't looking at them or listening. If Alistair missed out on cuddling with her earlier, he's going to get plenty of snuggling time now. After the movie and back at their home. After the movie and back at their home. Sky's POV. Did you enjoy the snuggle time with Alistair? I asked teasingly, watching Lola burrow under the covers of the inflatable mattress. Rather than take her home, we decided to let her stay at our home after we got back. Horror movies scare Lola badly, so I decided to take pity on her and let her stay over. She gave me a tired grin. Laugh it up, chica, she retorted half-heartedly. You're just lucky I don't kill you for the horror movies. But admit it, you had fun tonight, didn't you? I asked her. Even Alistair looked happier than normal. She blushed. Let's put it this way. I don't need double dates in the future. Night. 1 a.m. Alistair's POV. I turned off the television and leaned back into the sofa, stifling a yawn as I leaned into the cushions. It had been a long time. I turned off the television and leaned back into the sofa, stifling a yawn as I leaned into the cushions. It had been a long but fun evening, I decided. Lola had seemed to have a good time when we'd been at dinner, and while we were bowling, although she had latched onto me when we watched those movies. I waited until my eyes had adjusted to the darkness before I rose to my feet and padded through the room. Just as I reached the stairs wall, I bumped into someone that had been coming down them. I thought it was Sky at first, but whoever it was smaller than her, and a bit smaller than Valen. Alistair? That wasn't Sky's voice. Lola? I thought you were asleep, I said, reaching for a nearby standing lamp, and flicking the switch. The Hispanic girl was wearing gray gym shorts and a simple yellow cami. She had been fiddling with the part of her hair when I turned the light on. She looked incredibly unhappy and nervous. Is something wrong? I asked, watching her for a moment. She looked up at me, and then to my great surprise, she nearly tackled me, hugging me around my waist tightly. There's a lot of weird noises, and I keep thinking about the movies from earlier. Can I please stay up with you? I looked down at her, feeling slightly startled before I felt my eyes soften. I guess so, I began, but I stopped and let out a startled gasp when she slumped bonelessly against me. I tried to move away from her so I could make sure she was okay, but then her grip tightened and I heard a contented sigh escape her. I realized then what had happened. She'd fallen back to sleep. She must not have been entirely awake when she came downstairs. I debated for a moment before carefully scooping her into my arms, moving back into the living room, making a beeline for Raphael's recliner. I'm going to have to thank him for splurging on that big chair, since it could fit 2 people on it. As I head for the chair, Lola snuggled against me, and despite of myself, I smiled. Gee, what a shame. Looks like Lola won't let go of me. Guess this means I have to stay down here tonight, and let Lola hang on to me, because waking her up is rude, and she was scared to begin with. I think I can handle that. Next morning, normal POV. Lola, are you down? Are you down here? Sky called softly as she came downstairs, looking for her best friend. She frowned when she noticed that a lamp was still on, and she sighed. Of course, Valen wouldn't turn the lights off before he went to bed. She flicked the switch off and continued on her way, stifling a yawn as she turned the corner into the living room. She went about halfway through the room before something got the corner of her eye, and she directed her attention to the object. When she saw what it was, a smile split her features. Alistair and Lola were fast asleep in Raphael's recliner chair. There was a blanket on them, but it primarily covered Lola and only barely went over Alistair. Her best friend was snuggled comfortably against the redhead's side, one of her arms wrapped loosely over his waist. She watched this small scene for a moment longer, before her smile turned into a smirk, and she tiptoed to the table when her computer rested. Her camera was right next to him. Sky had to be careful, as Alistair tended to be a light sleeper, and the slightest sound woke him up. She was willing to take the chance on waking him up. Blackmail opportunities for Alistair were so rare. She had to take the chance. Got you! She breathed, turning her camera on. What are you doing? A voice inquired sleepily, but quietly, from behind her. She jumped and whirled around, recognizing Raphael. Jeez, don't do that, she whispered softly but fiercely. You're worse than Alistair sometimes when you sneak up on people. The older man glanced to his chair, spotted Lola and Alistair, looked at the camera in Sky's hand, and then he gave her a small smile. Take it. I'm sure Alistair will do anything to get a hold of that picture. Chapter 31. Road Trip and Fireworks. Good morning, Sky shouted, waking the two lovebirds in the recliner. Alistair's eyes snapped open comically, and Lola let out a shriek. Was that necessary? The other girl demanded, scrambling clumsily out of Alistair's lap and stalking over to her best friend. I'm sorry, but it's almost noon, and I was hungry. Raphael wouldn't let me cook or eat until you two were up, since the kitchen is right next to you guys. Never again, she snarled. I'm going to get a shower. Have fun, Sky called after her best friend, ignoring the dark martyrs being sent her way. Looking to Alistair, she put a hand on her hip and arched an eyebrow. So how did you sleep? Very comfortably. There was nothing on his face to give away his emotions. You like that, Sky replied, her grin widening. And what gave you that? What's that in your hand? He asked, pointing to the where she was holding the camera. Tell me you didn't. Didn't what? Asked Sky innocently. Oh, you mean take a picture? She continued, feigning surprise when she saw the camera in her hand. Oh, no, I just happened to have it. Fork it over, you, he said shortly. Now, who said I took anything? She said playfully, rolling back and forth on the balls of her feet. Give me the camera, he snapped, lunging for the girl. Sky tried to make a break for it, but Alistair got her by the wrist tightly and pulled her backward, causing her to yelp in surprise. From a neighboring room, Raphael's voice called out at them. Alistair, you're one of my closest friends, but if you've hurt Sky in any fashion, there will be much violence involved. Sky capitalized on this opportunity to call out piteously. He did, Raphael. I think my wrist, it's sprained. Alistair took this chance, though, to pry the camera from her hand and make a quick getaway, just as the blonde came into the room to figure out what was going on. What happened? He asked, looking to the shorter girl for an explanation. Alistair wanted my camera and took it from me, and I think he hurt my wrist, she replied, holding her slightly red wrist out from him to examine. Raphael's expression darkened. Did he now? She could blackmail me with that picture. I'm not planning on being her servant or that anytime soon, called Alistair from somewhere outside the room. He had wisely chosen not to stay put. By breaking my wrist? Snapped Sky indignantly. Oh, come on, you crybaby. I had to deal with worse injuries and I didn't even grab you that hard. You still hurt her, Alistair, Raphael growled. I did not. She's greatly exaggerating with that injury, and Sky had better tell me where that picture is. I didn't take one, she said, sniffling melodramatically. Raphael glowered in the direction where Alistair's voice was coming from. Alistair, apologize. If I come out, I may lose a few years of my life. I'll just apologize right from where I'm at. You do that, said Raphael before scooping Sky into his arms and going to the kitchen with her. I'll be making lunch. As soon as you apologize, you can have some lunch. Sky giggled as the man set her gently on the counter. Raphael, what are you doing? Sky asked as he went to the freezer. Getting you an ice pack for your wrist, he replied, getting out a small blue bag. Alistair didn't hurt me, you know. I faked it, she said, shuddering when the cold bag went on her wrist. You made a big deal out of it, so you're getting an ice pack. Why did you fake it anyway? So that my knight in shining armor could rescue me, and the memory card to my camera where the picture Alistair's looking for is at. And this memory card is where? Sky gave him a wicked grin. In the one place Alistair wouldn't dare go poking around in, she replied, setting her arms pointedly across her chest. One of Raphael's eyebrows arched. Even though you put the memory card down the front of your skirt, down the front of your shirt, and you may have been faking it earlier, I can already see a bruise starting to form, he said, gently taking her injured hand and showing her the mark on her wrist. It's not nice to antagonize Alistair, Sky. Well then, it's a good thing you came to my rescue, she replied, kissing him on the cheek castily. He smiled, but then frowned. Why did you put the card in your bra? If Alistair had touched my girls, he would have given you the right to beat him to a pulp, she stated matter-of-factly. Raphael gave her an odd expression, uncertain if he should be disturbed or, disturbed seemed to fit the description of his emotions at the moment. So, you two are official now? Sky asked from her position on Raphael's lap. What does it look like to you? Said Alistair flatly from where he was sitting on the sofa, though his hand momentarily tightened around Lola's. Watch it, Alistair, Raphael said merely. You still aren't entirely out of the doghouse with me, you know. Alistair grimaced, but said nothing. So, Lola, are you? Sky asked, looking at her best friend. The Hispanic girl was sitting next to Alistair, almost curled up beside him. Her hand was intertwined with the redhead's, and she had not let it go since she had sat down beside him. Yes, she said, almost giggling. He just doesn't want to admit it. High time, amended Raphael, but Alistair shot a glare at the older man. Look who's talking. You and Sky took 2 years to get together. You have no room to talk, retorted the redhead with a squall. Valen's voice suddenly cut over Raphael's reply with a smile. Alistair and Lola sitting in a tree. Kissin. Finish that and die, Valen, Alistair hissed, glaring daggers at the young teen. Amber popped out of the chimney, grinning cheekily at Alistair. Gee, she finished brightly. Hey, Valen, wanna blow something up? I thought you'd never ask, replied Valen with equal cheerfulness, bolting out of the front door with Amber close behind him. They're perfect for each other, Raphael stated, glancing down when Sky rested her head against his shoulder and smiling. Okay, on to bigger things. Lola started sitting upright. I was wondering when Valen's birthday is, since I heard him mention that he didn't know when it was. He also said that he celebrates it right about now. Any ideas as to when it really is? Raphael frowned, exchanging glances with Alistair and then Sky. Valen doesn't really know when his birthday is, because he was orphaned at an early age. He only knows his first and last name, and that's about it. Not even a birth year? Asked Lola, surprised and sympathetic all at once. Not even that much, said Alistair grimly. Following that comment, there was an uneasy silence that was broken only by Sky's excited gasp. I almost forgot, she said, shifting on Raphael's lap to pull out her cell phone and begin typing on it rapidly. Forgot what? Asked Raphael. It must be important since your elbow's currently lodged in my stomach. You've got abs, sweetheart. You live, she said absently, as she finished typing on her cell phone and sent the message. A few minutes later, the device let out a ding, and Sky glanced at it, a triumphant smile on her face. Let me up for a minute, Raphael. What are you doing? He questioned as she got off his lap to go to the computer. I asked Skybot to look up Valen's birthday a while back, right after I asked him to look up your information, Raphael. I almost forgot, but I just sent him a text. He had the information on hand, but I never asked for it. How did Kaiba get a hold of that? Raphael asked with a frown. Darts couldn't even find it. Then again, it wasn't like he bothered looking, said Alistair darkly. Sky went to print the email out. Darts was the one who burned down the church and any records it may have had. Sky, who had gone to the printer in the kitchen to get the email, came back into the room with wide eyes. You guys aren't going to believe this. What? His birthday is in 2 months, on the 4th day. Alistair frowned, doing the mental math before his eyes also widened. That's the 4th of July. There's no way. Let me see that, he demanded, snatching the paper away from Sky when she came over. The moment his eyes connected with the paper and he read the day for himself, he groaned. Great, just great. I knew there was a reason he was such a pyromaniac. His birthday blows stuff up. Well, that means there's one thing left to do, Sky started. Find all of the fireworks in the house that he has hidden and confiscate all explosives in Amber's lab? Raphael asked sarcastically. Lola answered with a nod. You got it. The hard part's going to be finding them all. Let's start with the floorboards in Valen's room and the curtains. He hides them all the time there. I'll check the curtains. Sky, you go upstairs. Alistair will take the basement and get the ones from Amber's lab, and Raphael will check in the kitchen. Thank you others for this, Raphael. There goes my free afternoon, muttered Alistair indignantly as he went into the basement. Take note of the fact I was being sarcastic, said Raphael over his shoulder when he vanished in the kitchen. And Lola, how did you know that Valen hides them under the floorboards? I got bored when I was over here a while ago, so I cleaned his room and found the loose floorboard. He didn't take it so well, and he trashed it again in half an hour. She felt it. All that hard work for nothing. Maybe I should clean it again for his birthday. Speaking of birthdays, Raphael's in 3 days, Alistair said with a grin, having just come up from the basement. Shut up, Raphael growled at the red-haired man. It is? Sky asked in surprise, coming back downstairs. I had no idea it was so soon. Alistair ignored Raphael's glower and took Lola's hand. It's about time for Jasper's walk. You going to come with? Okay, she giggled, allowing him to lead her into the front hall, and after hooking Jasper onto the end of his leash, take her out of the house. So your birthday is coming up? Sky asked. How come you didn't mention it sooner? It's not something I particularly enjoy celebrating, replied Raphael, his mouth turning down at the corner. Well, you're just lucky that I bought your birthday card a couple months ago when I went to the store for some more popcorn, she said, going over to the desk and rifling through a drawer before pulling out an envelope. Your present's inside. I got it yesterday. Raphael opened the envelope and read it, both his eyebrows rising as he read the front of the card aloud. Roses are red, violets are blue. It ain't Valentine's Day, but I still love you. How sappy, he said dryly, glancing at the 5 papers that had fallen from the card. I figured you would appreciate that, said Sky. You seem like the sappy card kind of guy. Yes, that goes very well in my likes of rainbows and butterflies and dancing ponies. He did pant, a frown marring his features when he read the papers. Plane tickets? Yep, we're going to France, she exclaimed, hugging Raphael. At her boyfriend's suddenly blank expression, she added hastily. We are not going to Paris if you don't want to, but Versailles is a nice place to go. Besides, Kaiba had flyer miles, and he doesn't use them all that often anyways. When Raphael said nothing, she looked back up at him and asked worriedly, "Is this okay?" "Yeah, this is great," he lied, hugging her back. "This should be interesting. Why are there 5 tickets?" "Oh, Alistair, Lola, and Valen are coming too." Raphael repressed a groan. "Stupendous." Wait a minute. What number am I now? Man, I don't know why I'm still forgetting where I am. Please hold on. Let me see. So, okay. Okay, I think I'm at 32 if I'm not wrong. So, I think it's okay. So, I think it's correct. Chapter 32. Trip down memory lane. "Are we there yet?" Valen whined, fidgeting in his seat. "No!" came 4 other voices in reply, their voices exasperated. The boy huffed and folded his arms, beginning to pout. "And besides, we just took off an hour ago," Alistair said, smacking the tin over his head. "We won't be in France for another 12 hours. "Oi!" he exclaimed. "Stop hitting me. It's not cool." "Neither are you, but you don't hear me complaining about it." Sky rolled her eyes as the 2 bikers began arguing, looking instead to Raphael and smiling brightly up at him. "Like the legroom?" she asked. Raphael, who had leaned back in his seat with a contented expression on his face, glanced down at his girlfriend. "Yeah, there's more room and I'm not practically folded into my seat." "I figured. You never liked flying whenever we had to go out of the country for darts," she explained with a smile, taking out her sketchbook and beginning to sketch. A moment later, she pulled out her iPod and her headphones, placing the earbuds in her ears before resuming her sketching. Raphael smiled contently before looking out the window. Sky had left him to his own thoughts, and most of them revolved around their destination. Due to his pondering, however, he did not notice his girlfriend staring at him, eyes shifting from her book back to him every now and then with a worried frown. He wasn't sure how long he'd been immersed in his thoughts, but what brought him out of them was the sudden pressure on his shoulder. He looked down to see what it was and then let out a soft chuckle. Sky had fallen asleep and had chosen him to be her impromptu pillow. A glance at his watch told him that 2 hours had passed since she had last spoken to him. And he shifted in his seat carefully, making himself slightly more comfortable, but making certain he did not wake Sky up. She shifted and mumbled incoherently, but stayed where she was. Raphael shook his head in amusement before his eyes went to the open sketchbook in her lap. Her hands were covering a part of the sketch she'd been working on, but from what he could immediately tell, she had been sketching him. Intrigued, he gingerly pulled the book out from under her hands and studied the sketch. It was certainly no Mona Lisa, but it was fairly accurate. She'd she'd been doing a profile of him, and it seemed she hadn't been able to get his nose entirely right. But beyond that, the rest of the picture was surprisingly good. A sudden hunch made him close the book and then open it to the first page. He nearly laughed at the first picture, but kept on turning the pages anyway. The sketches got better every time he turned the page. As he kept going, though, his eyebrows shot up in surprise. Most of her sketches seemed to be centered on him. She must have started this book around the time she had started working at Paradius. He must. Most of the drawings in the book were focused around the three bikers and numerous incidents that had happened only during Doma. She'd even drawn the incident where Valen had accidentally set off fireworks inside Paradius. He looked up when he heard Alistair's voice retort loudly. "For the last time, Valen, we are not getting a monkey." "What's the big deal about it?" he asked. "It's just a monkey. They literally throw crap at people, pick their noses, and they're... Can't you two go for a few hours without fighting?" Sky asked sleepily, rubbing her eyes and sitting up. "What are you arguing about now?" "Valen wants a pet monkey." "It would be cool," Valen defended. "I mean, sure, we got Jasper and Misha, but heck, having a monkey would be awesome." "We already have one," Sky said flatly. At the baffled gazes being directed at her, she giggled. "He's sitting next to Alistair and wearing a pair of goggles." After an agonizing 10 more hours on the plane, the bikers were finally in France. Of course, the boys all got stared at, but Sky and Lola slipped under the radar. They were the most normal looking of the group. Let's face it, the bikers stood out like sore thumbs. "So what are we looking for?" Valen asked. "How do we know where we're going?" "I was told that we will have a coffer," Sky started. "I think we're looking for a sign. There it is," she said, pointing to a man holding a sign with Kaiba written on it. "Bonjour, mademoiselle," the chauffeur said, nodding his head. "Puis-je prendre vos bagages?" "Oi, what's this bloke saying?" Rolling his eyes, Raphael stepped forward. "Oui, merci, monsieur. Je suis désolé pour mon ami." "C'est bien, monsieur. Si je peux demander, vous êtes monsieur Durant?" "Oui." Valen and Lola both dropped their jaws at the same time, while Alistair merely raised an eyebrow, and Sky, well, she found one more reason that she was in love with the man. "Très bien, mais c'est vrai et je vous prendrai à votre destination." "À votre destination," the chauffeur said gracefully. "Does anyone know what the hell this guy is saying?" Valen snapped, regaining his composure. This only earned him a slap over the head from both Lola and Alistair. "Merci," replied Raphael before he turned to the small group. "Let's go." "Holy crap, Raph. That was scary. Hell, I didn't even know you spoke French." "I did at one point live in France. I may have lost the accent, but I still know their language," Raphael sighed. "And I know Sky loved it," Lola said in a sing-song voice. This only got the Hispanic girl a smack on the head from said girl. After driving for about 20 minutes, they reached their next destination. It was a two-story traditional country house with a red and white brick exterior. Two oak trees in the front yard were at the corners of the house, and the flower garden along the front patio was in full bloom. "This place is huge!" Lola and Valen exclaimed in unison, staring at the house with surprise. Sky glanced over to Raphael to gauge his reaction. His current expression, while predominantly a happy one, had confusion and something she could not identify mixed with it. He cleared his throat and said, "Sky, is this?" At that very moment, the front door opened, cutting off his reply, as a woman in her early 50s came out of the house. Her blonde hair was up in a loose bun, revealing a few barely noticeable silver strands in her hair. A huge smile appeared on her face as her eyes landed on Raphael. "It's so good to see you again," she exclaimed, pulling the much taller blonde into a surprisingly strong hug. Raphael was completely caught off guard by the woman and returned her hug weakly. "Aunt Amelia?" he almost questioned, looking to a suddenly innocent-looking Sky. "Who else do you think it is? And give me a better hug than that. What good are all those muscles if you don't use them?" She sighed, and Raphael let out a laugh as he relaxed. "Are these your friends?" she asked once she and Raphael had separated, studying the group intently. Yeah, Aunt Amelia, this is Valen, Alistair, Lola, and Skylar," Amelia said knowledgeably as her eyes landed on the girl in question, startling her nephew. "We spoke on the phone a couple days ago when we were arranging your stay. It is an honor to finally meet you." "Likewise." She's so precious, Raphael. I like her already," she declared warmly, causing Sky's smile to widen and Raphael to rub the back of his head in embarrassment. "Now come along, you lad, and let me show you to your rooms." The inside of the stone house was just as awe-inspiring as the exterior. When they walked inside, they immediately entered the foyer. To the right was a study room, and the left was what appeared to be the dining room. The kitchen was directly in front of the foyer. Next to the kitchen, they got a glimpse of the spacious living room. "This is a beautiful home you have," Lola stated. "Thank you," a male voice replied from behind them, and as they turned, they saw the black-haired man step into view. He was around the same age as Raphael's aunt, since they could see gray streaks through the dark hair. He was about Raphael's height, perhaps an inch taller if one put them side by side. "I designed it myself." "No kidding," Valen asked in disbelief. "Did you build it too?" Alistair rolled his eyes and cuffed the back of Valen's head. "Enough with the 20 questions." "No, I don't mind," said the man cheerfully. "I did the blueprints, but I have a friend of mine who's a contractor. He helped out." "Hello, Uncle Clement," Raphael said, smiling at the man. "It's good to see you again," replied Clement warmly. "I'd chat longer, but Amelia is about to burst at the seams unless she starts talking." "I'm not," retorted the woman good-naturedly. "We better sort out room assignments now. Skylar and Lola can take the guest room over the garage, and you three men can take the guest rooms here in the house. There's one by the patio, one here next to the living room, and the last one is upstairs." "I call the one near the patio," Valen said promptly as he disappeared from view. "Valen, you idiot," Alistair began as he took a step after him, but Raphael stopped him by placing a hand on the red-haired shoulder. The smaller biker looked up at him with a scowl. "Why did you stop me?" A familiar yelp from somewhere out of sight stopped Raphael from replying, and the man gestured in that direction with an amused smile on his face. "Oliver," he said in explanation. "Who?" asked Lola curiously. An unfamiliar voice broke the calm with a furious and indignant, "Do you mind? I'm trying to sleep. And who the inferno are you?" Olivier. Language." His aunt yelled sharply. A few seconds later, a teenage boy, clothed in a dark hoodie and jeans, came out of the room Valen had just disappeared into. He had dark brown hair with noticeably blonde highlights and was 2 inches taller than Skylar was. He had one of Valen's arms pinned back behind him, and the Australian was barely moving to get away. A quick glance told Sky that the arm pinned was the one that he had recently broken. "Who's this moron?" snapped the boy irritably, looking to Amelia for an explanation. Alistair nodded. Oh, sorry. Let me try again. Alistair noted the suddenly dreamy expression on Lola's face and instantly felt a pang of jealousy. "This is my cousin, Olivier. Olivier, these are my friends, Alistair, Lola, and my girlfriend, Skylar," he emphasized, showing his cousin a pointed expression when the teen glanced at Sky. "The one you're hanging on to is Valen." Amelia looked embarrassed. "Oh, Olivier, I'm sorry. I completely forgot your room is back there." "Usually he's out with friends. He barely inhabits his room," said Clement from somewhere in the house. "Honest mistake, love." Amelia apologized profusely to Olivier before turning her attention to the small group. "I apologize, but it seems there's only 2 rooms available at the moment. One of you is going to have to share a room." I call dibs on not rooming with Valen," Alistair declared promptly. "Valen will room with me," Raphael said, and after a few more moments of conversation, Raphael led the 2 other male bikers to their rooms, leaving behind the girls. "Don't worry, dears. I'll show you the room over the garage," said Amelia brightly. "I saved it just for you two. It's the second biggest room in the house." "Cool," the girls said in unison, giving each other high fives as they followed after Amelia. "Happy birthday, Raphael," Sky cheered, jumping on his bed and waking him up. "Skylar, it's too early," he groaned, the sound muffled by his pillow. "Come on," she wailed. "There's coffee on the table." No movement. Raphael had gone right back to sleep. Sky contemplated this for a few seconds before rolling her eyes. "Valen's about to drink all the coffee," she said flatly. "He better not," Raphael said sharply as he got out of the bed. Instantly awake and heading out of the room to the kitchen. As an afterthought, he returned to the room to help his girlfriend off the floor. Sorry, he apologized sheepishly. Together, the two of them went down to the kitchen, where Amelia was in the process of making breakfast. When the woman saw them, a smile lit her features, and she crossed the room. "Good morning, birthday boy," his aunt said, pinching his cheek affectionately. "Don't do that," muttered Raphael with some embarrassment. "Oh, it's Ralph's birthday? I completely forgot," said Vernon, suddenly looking guilty. "No surprise there," muttered Alistair. "No surprise there," muttered Alistair under his breath, rolling his eyes as he resumed eating. "Don't worry, dear. Where we're going, you'll have a chance to get him a present," declared Amelia matter-of-factly. "Any guesses where we're going, by the way?" "Too tired to think. Haven't had coffee," Raphael mumbled, reaching for the coffee pot on the table. "Paris!" the girl squealed in excitement, causing the men in the room to wince. "Could you not do that?" growled Olivier. Clement nodded in agreement, returning to the newspaper he had been reading. "What makes you say we're going to Paris?" asked Alistair, glancing at Lola and Sky with arched eyebrows. "It's a girl thing," his aunt said sagely. "So hurry up and eat so we can go. Clement, Olivier, are you coming?" "Nope," said the two at the same time. "You three are coming, aren't you?" Amelia inquired of the three male bikers, but there was something in her tone that told them that she was not asking. Sky's POV. "Where's Raphael?" I asked as I filled out the restaurant after Lola, Alistair, and Valen. We'd had a successful day in Paris, and I had gotten Raphael a few things for his birthday, as had Alistair, Lola, and Valen. But toward the end of the day, Raphael had steadily looked more and more uncomfortable, and when we had gotten inside, he had excused himself and then had left the room. He hadn't come back. Amelia hesitated, looking distinctly uneasy when she noticed Raphael was gone. "He's probably at the cemetery," she said at last when she had ushered the rest of the group away from us. "Why?" She looked surprised before a suddenly serious expression made its way onto her face. "He didn't tell you, did he?" I shook my head, uncertain as to what I was supposed to know. A scowl appeared on her face. "Oh goodness, that boy," she muttered, though there was no real wrath to her words. Her features softened when she looked at me. "The poor sweetie doesn't like people bringing up his birthday," she continued, looking saddened. "How come?" I asked, suddenly uncomfortable. "You know that he was shipwrecked and marooned, right?" "Yeah," I said, slowly, feeling even more uncomfortable. It's never a good omen if that particular topic gets brought up. "That horrible accident happened on his 11th birthday," she stated quietly, not looking at me anymore. "Clement's younger brother was Raphael's father. My husband may have lost his brother, but Raphael lost everything on that day." My mouth dropped open, and I felt weak in the knees. I was forced to sit down on a nearby bench. Now I understood why he'd been so tense when Alistair had brought up his birthday a couple days ago, why he had been so distant on the plane flight, and why he had looked uncomfortable when we had passed the cemetery earlier. This was such a tender topic, and I felt like I had trampled all over it. "Sweetie, I'm glad you brought him here, Mia said, sitting down next to me and putting a hand on my shoulder. She must have seen that I was upset. The last time I saw him, he was 16 years old. He was still as touchy about this topic as he is now. He can't keep running from this forever, though. A birthday is an inevitable part of life. Where is he? I asked jerkily, looking up at her. At the cemetery. It's right around the corner. We'll head on home. Raphael knows our address. He'll get you back. She replied kindly. I wasted no time getting to my feet and hurrying past my friends. I needed to find him. I sprinted out of the restaurant, heading straight for the cemetery. When I arrived, I stared at the gated entrance. Above the door was an artfully metal rough plaque that read Cimetière. Sometime later I arrived, pushing open the gates that led into the cemetery. When I touched the iron bars, they felt as cold as ice, but I didn't care. All that mattered was that I had to get to Raphael. Under my feet I could feel the unevenness of the old cobbled path. The stones moved, save for the occasional dead leaf that got crunched under my foot. The moon was my only source of light as I moved silently past the various tombstones, but it was enough for me to see that there was someone up ahead. The figure was hunched in front of four marble slabs, and even from here I could see the pain that they were in. There was only one person he could be, given this hour. The sight made my heart sing. There he was, on his knees, and his back to me. If he looked this bad from behind, I can even imagine what his face looks like at this point. Raphael? I asked gently, my voice trembling. The man visibly jumped and scrambled to his feet, completely caught off guard and looking uncharacteristically vulnerable for a brief second before regaining his composure. Sky, he said quietly, his blue eyes overbright. I didn't know you were in the cemetery. I was worried, and your aunt told me where to find you. I heard what happened to your family, I said softly. I didn't know. I didn't exactly tell you either, he said with a humorless laugh. In the moonlight, I could see that there were tear tracks visible on his face, and my heart hurt for him. He reached up and tried to rub at his eyes, but I caught his hand and moved over his arm to hug him tightly. You know it's all right to cry, I murmured. I won't think any less of you for it. There was a long pause after I spoke, and then his arms were around me, and he had buried his face in my hair. He was holding me so tight that it was getting harder to breathe, but his shoulders started shaking, and I have no desire to disentangle myself from his embrace. It still hurts, he whispered brokenly. I know they said that I'm not to blame myself, but even now, I can't help it. Blame yourself for what? I asked, my voice muffled by his chest. He realized that he was crushing me, pushed me away from him, holding me by the shoulders as he looked at me. His eyes glittered with self-loathing, still far too bright. Darts needed me, not my family. He sank the cruise ship just so he could later recruit me. It's my fault that they died. felt as if a train had slammed into me. That son of a... How could... Trailed off stunned. Then I growled. That son of a Sphinx. Sphinx? He asked me, a ghost of a smile touching his face. First thing that came to mind, said with an attempted smile before I met his gaze. Raphael, it's not. Don't cry, big brother. Raphael jumped at the sound of the little boy's voice, and I looked behind my boyfriend to see the small boy watching us sadly. At first I thought he was alone, but then I saw the blonde girl with him. Her blue eyes were gazing at Raphael with an equal amount of sadness. Neither child appeared to be older than 10. They were both transparent, as a matter of fact. Sonia? Julianne? Raphael questioned shakily, his face paling as he looked at the two children. A hand went up to cover my mouth when I realized that these ghosts were his siblings, and a wave of misery hit me. They had been that young when they died. Hi, big brother. Hi, big brother, Julian chirped, taking a few running steps forward before leaping at his older brother. In spite of the fact that he was nothing more than a ghost, the child still managed to bring Raphael to the ground, hugging him tightly. The blond man raised his hands to return the hug, looking completely bowled over. I couldn't help but let out a startled laugh, and I thought Valen tackling you was funny. Who knew a little kid bring you down? I joked. My voice caught the attention of the little girl, and she turned her big blue eyes on me briefly before looking to Raphael. Big brother, who is she? Raphael, who was still wearing a stunned expression on his face and was still holding his brother, said, Sonia, this is Skylar. She's a very special friend of mine. Sonia studied me with a nameless expression before she leaned over to her brother and stage whispered, She's really pretty, Raphael. I giggled, but blushed when Raphael replied to his sister with a heartfelt, I know. He held out one of his hands to his sister, and then she was hugging him as well. Both of the children were sitting comfortably on his lap now, and the three of them lapsed into a murmured conversation in French. I smiled at the sight, and in the mind that they had, in essence, excluded me from the conversation. Raphael had not seen them in years. He definitely deserved to have a few moments alone with them. There was a soft rustling noise behind me, and I looked over my shoulder. My eyes widened when I saw the man and woman behind me. I'm sorry, I didn't know we were intruding. I began, glancing back to where Raphael was sitting with his siblings. I wasn't sure how these people were going to react when they saw Raphael seemingly conversing with absolutely nothing. Maybe they could see the children, and they were going to... It was about then that I noticed that the couple was also transparent. You're Raphael's parents, aren't you? I asked, comprehension dawning on me. The woman, a stunningly beautiful blonde with blue eyes, nodded graciously. The gentleman beside her, a well-built man with hazel eyes and brown hair, swept off his face, tipped his head to me with an amused twinkle in his eyes. Neither of them said anything, instead looking brightly at their children with identical warm smiles, before returning their attention to me. I'm Skylar, I said, suddenly shy. I'm his, his girlfriend, I offered with some embarrassment. It's kind of awkward to introduce yourself to your boyfriend's dead parents. The man eyed me and then smiled approvingly, his wife mirroring the expression. Raphael, who had looked up and had got his parents' eyes, stared at them in surprise. My mother's smile broadened, and she said something in French to him. His mother's smile broadened, and she said something in French to him. I didn't know the language, but judging by the loving tone she had spoken in it, was something important. Then she and her husband vanished from view once again. My cell phone vibrated at that point, and I took it out, glancing at the text from Alistair before signing. Raphael was still staring at the place where his parents had been, with an odd expression on his face. But when I cleared my throat, his eyes went to me. Raphael, we have to get back, I said, hating the fact I had to break this moment up. Valen found your cousin's Mountain Dew, and it's passing. So far he's shaved a cat. Say no more, he replied with a small chuckle. He gently moved his siblings off his lap and rose to his feet, looking down at them. His eyes were over bright again, but there was a wide smile on his face that hadn't been there before. Thank you, he told them. We're always with you, said Sonia with a gentle smile, before she and her brother vanished. Raphael gazed at the spot where his brother and sister had been, before holding his hand out to me. Let's go home, he said quietly. I nodded, letting him take my hand and then lead me out of the cemetery. We said nothing, a comfortable silence between us, until we reached the iron gates. Raphael, what did your siblings say? I asked. Raphael paused. They told me that if I ever blamed myself for the cruise ship sinking again, they'd come back and haunt me, he said at last. I know that's not everything they said, judging by that expression on his face. But there are some things that I probably won't get an explanation for. I also know better than to ask Raphael what his mother said. I've got a funny feeling that I already know. We had to catch a taxi to get us home. But just as Amelia said, Raphael knew the address, and we found ourselves right back at the country house 30 minutes later. When we entered the house, though, we were greeted by a sight that only caused us to laugh. Valen was rolled up in a rug, completely immobilized by the duct tape and rope that wrapped the carpet. A strip of duct tape was over his mouth, rendering him incapable of sound. Sitting calmly on top of the Valen rug burrito was Alistair and Olivier, who were currently playing Halo. Lola was watching from the armchair while Clement and Amelia were snuggled on the sofa, the woman knitting while her husband read from a book. Aunt Amelia, Uncle Clement, did you have anything to do with this? Asked Raphael with barely visible amusement. The older adults glanced at Raphael with feigned innocence. Who, us? They questioned at the same time. Oh, okay, hold on. Let me just check again so I know that I'm not saying the wrong number again. Let's see. Okay, 33. It's good. Nothing to worry. Chapter 33. Pictures and squirt guns. When are they going to call our flight? Valen whined, folding his arms and panting. Quit your mopping. Shouldn't be too much longer, snapped Alistair irritably. We don't even speak French. How are we going to know when they call us? Moaned the other teen, either not hearing or ignoring Alistair's comment. Can't you two go for 15 minutes without fighting? Raphael mumbled, sitting down across from the two and reaching for a book to pass the time with. Sky rolled her eyes as she began passing out drinks. Here's coffee for Tweedledum, and I got Tweedledum per Sunkist, she said flatly. Thanks, Sky, Valen exclaimed, taking the drink and chugging it down instantly. He clearly had not noticed the fact that he had responded to her nickname. Alistair had and refused to take its coffee until Sky said unannoyed, Oh, fine. Here's your coffee, Alistair. Valen tossed his bottle into his backpack just as their flight got called, and as he rose to his feet, he looked to Sky. I've been meaning to ask why Lola isn't flying back with us. She's seeing her family in Spain again. Something about her aunt, said Alistair with a dismissive shrug. When everyone looked at Alistair with surprise, the redhead rolled his eyes. Oh, come on. I'm the one who's dating her. Sky isn't the only one who knows what's going on all the time, you know. Finally, Skylar exclaimed, pumping her fist in the air. You finally admit it. Shut up. Skylar? Yes? What did you do to Valen and Alistair? Whatever do you mean, Raphael? Don't play innocent. We haven't even been in the air for 5 minutes, and they've already fallen asleep. What did you do to them? It wasn't me. Jet lag got to them. You don't honestly think I'm going to fall for that, do you? Sky shrugged. It was worth a shot, she said with a small laugh. I put sleeping pills in their drinks. Valen didn't bother checking his bottle and didn't notice that it was open. Raphael shot a concerned glance at his alcohol friends. Should I be worried that they're going to die in their sleep? Oh, come on. What do you take me for? I put enough in there to last for the next 7 hours. I just wanted some peace and quiet on the plane ride, she explained, rummaging in her purse. Besides, I wanted to give you your birthday present. I thought this trip was my gift. Yeah, it is, she smiled. But I also wanted to give you something a little more memorable. This trip was memorable, Sky, he replied, arching an eyebrow. Just take the gift and quit giving me such a hard time, she said in exasperation, shoving the unwrapped package at him. He chuckled but complied, opening the box. When he saw what was inside the previously amused expression, the previously amused expression vanished to be replaced with an openly shocked one. Inside the box was a picture frame with a variety of spaces for pictures. In the upper left corner was a picture of himself as a child, and in the lower right-hand corner was a picture of Sky at about the same age. Along the left-hand side, there was a picture that was taken recently. It was a sunny day, and the two of them, along with Valen, Alistair, Lola, and Amber, hanging at the park. He had been giving Sky a piggyback ride when the picture had been taken, and they both had huge smiles on their faces. He was looking up at her while she was giving a peace sign to the camera. On the opposite side of the piggyback ride picture was a picture that he didn't recognize at all that had been taken of the two of them. It was a picture of when he first kissed her on her birthday. Along the upper and lower horizontal part of the frame were just little pictures of moments captured between the two. What really grabbed his attention was the photo in the middle. The two of them were sitting in Raphael's armchair in the lounge. Sky was on Raphael's lap, leaning back into his embrace. He had wrapped his arms protectively around her waist, but they both still had gentle smiles on their faces. On the bottom of this frame was a quote from Andrew Taney. "We have something special that no one, no distance, no time can take away. We have each other." He looked up at her with genuine surprise. "Skylar, this is... Wait, there's one more for your nightstand," she giggled, tapping the frame in the box. He brought his attention to the smaller picture frame resting on the tissue paper in the box. This one was an oval shaped and silver. The photo inside the frame honestly warmed his heart. Raphael had lifted Sky into his arms, one arm holding her up while the other was supporting her back. Sky's hands were resting on his shoulders, her legs dangling over his arm. They both were looking at each other with identical loving expressions on their faces. On the top and bottom of the frame, there was an inscription also. This one said, "It is so rare to find a complete person with a soul, a heart, and an imagination. So rare for characters as ardent and restless as ours to meet and to be matched together, that I hardly know how to tell you what happiness it gives me to know you." "Do you like them?" Sky asked hesitantly. "I didn't know what to get you specifically, since you are a hard one to shop for, and I wasn't..." She didn't get to finish because Raphael gently tilted her head towards his and gave her a kiss that honestly made her legs feel like jello. "Does that answer your question?" he inquired with a smile on his face when he moved back. "Maybe," she replied, a goofy smile spreading across her face. "How did you find all these pictures, Sky? I know you talked to my aunt about my childhood photograph, but not all of this came from her." "Lola and Alistair," Sky said simply, turning her attention back to the two sleeping bikers, just to be sure. A couple months passed, during which the bikers resumed normal life. Alistair and Valen continued with their pranking and their small arguments, though Alistair's jokes were made half-heartedly due to the fact that Lola was still visiting her family in Spain. That particular day found Raphael playing referee to yet another argument between Alistair and Valen. Sky had completely vanished, and after wandering the house trying to find her, Raphael decided to ask his friends if they had seen her. "For the last time, Raphael, she's most likely at her parents' house or the mall," Alistair stated boldly, managing to get his hands around Valen's throat. Get him off, Raph," Valen gasped, struggling under the lanky man's grip. For the love of God, Raph, get him off! Raphael stared Raphael stared at his younger friends for a moment before disappearing from view. A moment later, he returned with a small squirt gun and aimed it at Alistair. Bad, Alistair! No attempted murder in the house, he sighed as he pulled the trigger a few times. That was completely unnecessary, Alistair snapped indignantly, releasing an incredibly grateful wail as the boy rubbed at his neck. And besides, we aren't your girlfriend, Radar. She randomly disappears from time to time, and you know that. At that precise moment, Skylar came flying down the stairs. Hi guys, going to the mall. See you, she said quickly, and all in one breath as she bolted out the door. Told you she was upstairs, Alistair said smugly. In my defense, I looked up there. Sure, Alistair said, rolling his eyes. Skylar did not return to the house until the sun went down, and she assumed that everyone was asleep in bed when she walked in the door at almost midnight. All the lights were off, and things certainly pointed that way when she walked in. She should have known better, really. As she closed the front door behind her, a lamp in the family room turned on. And where have you been? Demanded a deep voice imperiously. She jumped in surprise, turning to look at the room with wide eyes. A few seconds later, she was trying to withhold her laughter. Raphael had moved his armchair so that it faced the front door, and so that it was positioned next to a lamp. Misha was currently sitting on his lap, and he was petting her absently. The scene reminded Sky all too much of an evil villain confronting the hero for the first time, and she sighed with exasperated fondness. Really? Really? Raphael looked at her expectantly, setting Misha down on the floor as he rose to his feet. You can't just vanish for nearly 8 hours and not expect me to do something. Where were you? Out, she stated, walking past him. The short answer clearly wasn't going to cut it for Raphael, as she was going upstairs, got her by the waist, and then hoisted her over his shoulder. She let out a squeak of surprise as he carried her back to the family room and deposited her on the sofa. A better explanation, please. Sky arched an eyebrow, rising to her feet again. And if I don't tell you, how do you plan on stopping me? She challenged. In reply, Raphael merely lifted her back onto the couch, lying her flat, before this time pinning her hands over her head and sitting on her legs. Does this answer your question? He asked with amusement, looking down at her with mirth twinkling in his eyes. Sky struggled. Get off of me, she said with fond exasperation. Not until you tell me where you were, he replied. Raphael paused, eyeing her for a moment before a smirk appeared on his face. And besides, I rather like this position. Jerk, she said, nonetheless giggling. Fine, I went out to get party supplies. For what? He asked, getting off of Sky before joining her on the sofa. Well, tomorrow is the 4th of July, and that's Valen's birthday, unless you forgot. No, I didn't forget that. And actually, today's the 4th. Don't get technical. Anyways, I need my beauty sleep, said Sky, sticking her tongue out at him petulantly as she got to her feet, heading for the stairs. Raphael followed after her, but not before he turned the lamp off. Chapter 44. Valen's Birth Certificate. Valen had plans as to how he would spend his 4th of July, most of which involving various ways to set off fireworks. He had not intended for those plans to include Amber screaming in his ear at 8 o'clock in the morning, but apparently they now did. Gah! He yelped, rolling out of bed and onto a pile of dirty laundry. He rubbed his head and looked up at the girl standing over him, glaring at her indignantly. Was that really necessary, Amber? Yep, she replied cheerfully, tugging at his leg insistently. Come on! Why? He asked, debating on whether he should go back to sleep on the pile of dirty laundry he was currently on top of. The other girl pouted, glaring at him before starting to pull him from the room. Get up and go to the kitchen, or I promise that I'll drag you down the stairs, she grunted, a strained expression on her face. All right, he snapped, getting to his feet and rubbing the sleep out of his eyes. I'm going. He followed after the overexcited Amber drowsily, continuing to rub his eyes even as he went down the stairs. When he got to the kitchen, though, he felt his mouth drop open in surprise. The room had been made over with red, white, and blue streamers. A birthday cake sat on the table, and red, white, and blue balloons were scattered throughout the room. Happy birthday! 3 female voices squealed, causing the startled Australian to fall backwards. Were we too enthusiastic? Amber asked, looking at the Hispanic girl in Sky. Maybe, the 2 girls said in unison. Was it necessary for you 3 girls to scream that loud? Alistair asked. I think you broke my eardrum. Yes, Amber said, grinning goofily up at him. Lola, I need your help with his present. Mind coming with me to go get it? Sure, as long as I don't have to go through the chimney, replied Lola, as the 2 girls left the room, leaving the 4 bikers in the kitchen. What's going on here? He asked, looking around him in confusion. When his eyes landed on the cake, he noticed that his name was written on it, and a frown marred his features. My birthday's not till December. You blocked on something. Raphael and Alistair exchanged glances with each other before their gazes went to Skylar expectantly. Wait, why do I have to do it? She questioned. Because you asked for the info, and you're the one who wanted to do this for him, Alistair replied flatly. What is going on? Valen asked, and this time there was an angry tremor in his voice. I like cake as much as the next fella, but I was sleeping upstairs and I was comfortable in having a good and I like cake as much as the next fella, but I was sleeping upstairs and I was comfortable in having a good dream. So what's all this about? Sky sighed and stepped forward. She watched the teen with a slightly sympathetic expression on her face. Valen, do you remember when I asked Kaiba to do a background search on Raphael? Valen blinked. What are you talking about? He asked a tad too hastily. I wasn't in your email inbox that time, honest. Sky rolled her eyes. Alistair already ratted you out, she explained, and Valen shot a betrayed expression at the redhead. Sky hesitated, and then she continued. Well, I also asked if he could look up something else for me, she stated, handing him the piece of paper that she was holding. Valen took the paper and looked at it questioningly. The color drained from his face. What is this? He asked hoarsely, although the expression on his face told them all he knew exactly what this was. Sky opened her mouth to reply, but now the Australian was handing the paper back to Sky. This is fake. Darts couldn't even find it, said brusquely, eyes flashing. But this really is your birth certificate, Valen, said Raphael quietly, reminding them that he and Alistair were still in the room. It's an official document. No tricks this time, Valen. We wouldn't joke about this. Valen stared at the document and brought it back to him slowly, studying it intently for several long minutes before his shoulders slumped dejectedly. The other three bikers exchanged awkward glances. Now, what were they supposed to do? What about my parents? Asked Valen sharply, starting the three of them. It's got their names on this paper, but what about them? Did Kaiba find out where they are now or what they're doing? Sky flinched. She had not even realized that by giving Valen his birth certificate, that she would be opening a very old wound. She shook her head slowly. He didn't tell me, she said quietly. I don't think he found anything on them. Valen's jaw clenched, and he looked at the certificate again. I see, he said softly, his eyes downcast. He paused, and then suddenly, all three of them were locked with an intense glare. And how long did all of you know about this? He demanded. Alistair answered him this time with a prompt. Right before we took off for France. Sky wanted to give it to you as a birthday present and asked you not to mention it. Not to mention none of us were in the hall. Let's get awkward mood. Now that it seems to have worked. Here we are. In awkward mood moment. Valen glared at them for a moment longer before he turned on his heel and disappeared from the kitchen. Sky went to follow after him, but Raphael got her arm and shook his head. Let Valen digest this for a bit, Sky. You gave him something that's a little hard for him to take in all at once. Raphael said, let Valen digest this for a bit, Sky. You gave him something that's a little hard for him to take in all at once. Raphael said gently. Give him time. He'll come around. I didn't mean to make him so upset. I thought it would make him happy, she stated. I didn't think he would react like that. This would have happened whether you gave him the stupid thing on his birthday or not, said Alistair bluntly, though there was no ire to his words. Like Raphael said, give him some space for a bit. He figured out his being a baby and snapped out of it. Come on, Raphael started after another awkward silence fell. He put his arm around Sky's shoulder and steered her toward the backyard. In the meantime, let's get ready for the barbecue. What smells so good? Lola asked, walking into the backyard with Amber a few hours later. "Burgers," Sky said, grinning at her friend. "And where have you been all this time?" Lola made a face. "Amber wanted to buy Valen several packs of fireworks, but wanted me to buy them for her since she's been banned from every fireworks place in Domino," she replied. "Nice apron," Alistair snickered as he passed, looking at the Kiss the Cook apron that Raphael was currently wearing. The other man glared at the redhead. "Don't make me get the square gun," he threatened. "It's a little bitty gun. I'm not scared," Alistair huffed. "You should be. I invested in a super soaker this time." Alistair froze at that statement. "I like the apron," Sky said, kissing Raphael on the cheek as she passed by. "And besides, it's not his fault. That's the only apron that we have." "Where's Valen?" Amber asked, dangling from the roof upside down and looking at them curiously. "How the heck? You know what? No, I don't want to know how you got there in the space of 3 seconds," said Lola with a groan, massaging her temples. Raphael and Sky looked at each other, and Sky's gaze shifted to Valen's bedroom window. I'll go talk to him, Alistair said with a huff, rolling his eyes and making a face. "Is he really the best candidate for that?" asked Sky in an undertone as he passed by them. Raphael nodded. "Don't worry, it'll be fine. He may not seem like it most of the time, but believe me when I say he's just as worried as you are." Valen scolded as Alistair suddenly threw open the door and walked into the Australian's bedroom. "Have you ever heard of knocking?" he snapped, shutting the radio off. "What is this knocking you speak of? And how does it apply to a door?" Alistair asked sarcastically. Valen glared. "What are you doing up here anyhow?" he asked suddenly, sitting up on his bed. "To figure why your panties are in a twist," replied the redhead flatly. Valen let the GB slide. "You blocks looked up my birthday and then didn't tell me about it." "Your blocks looked up my birthday and didn't tell me about it," he growled. "For the record, Valen, Sky found out right before we left for France. Now, I don't know entirely what happened while we were there, but there was that night when Raphael and Sky both disappeared and came back around 10. Whatever happened probably drove it out of her mind," he added when Valen opened his mouth. "If she'd known this would upset you, she would have said something sooner." He paused. "Besides, Valen, Sky gave you an official document. You can use it to find your parents now, rather than having to guess perpetually as to where they are." Valen was about to reply when Sky barged into his room, running towards the redhead. "Control your girlfriend!" She gasped out. "Amber said something, and now Lola's trying to drown her. I can't even stop her." "It must be serious if you're up here and you can't get her to calm down. I'll go sort that out, and in the meantime, you two kiss and make up," replied Alistair boldly as he left, though his pace quickened when he heard a string of curse words drift in from outside. Sky cleared her throat in the suddenly awkward silence and glanced at the other biker sadly. "Valen, I'm sorry. Sorry for what?" "For not telling you." Valen shook his head, the tension leaving his shoulders. "Nah, it's fine. Kinda know why you wanted to hold off for a while. he said quietly. It's just, I finally got an official day for my birthday, and I have a chance to find my mom and dad. And with me, it never works out that easy. He looked back at her and asked, Why did you do this for me? I wanted to get you something memorable for your birthday. I figured you would want to know when your birthday really was, Sky explained. Plus, you're like my younger brother. I had to do something for you. There was a long pause. Thanks, he said at last, giving her a small smile. You're welcome. Besides, that document answered the question that Raphael, Alistair, and I have been wondering about a long time, she said mischievously. Which was why you are so addicted to fireworks. Having a 4th of July birthday would suddenly explain it all. It took a while, but Valen finally let out a laugh. That it does. Hey, do I smell hamburgers? Where the hell are my fireworks? Everyone heard Valen roar from his room. The three bikers and Lola, who were watching the sun going down from the backyard, started to laugh. Where are my fireworks? Amber's scream followed from the basement, causing the four of them to burst out laughing harder. They'd taken precautions this year. There was no way they wanted to get blown away again, and so they had hidden every last firework they could find. The first of the fireworks whistled by them 10 minutes later. What the hell? Sky screamed, ducking a firework as it flew over her head. Exchanging alarmed glances, the small group went to the front lawn. Valen and Amber stood there, soot all over their faces with firecrackers surrounding them. Even as they watched Valen and Amber simultaneously lit a small bundle and tossed it into the air, cackling maniacally as the fireworks exploded. I thought we confiscated them all, said Lola, puzzled. Alistair groaned in sudden realization. We did, but we forgot to check Amber's house. Chapter 35. Never mess with the Kaiba. This was a memorable 4th of July, Alistair said drily, well aware that he was in fact alone at the moment. The redhead was currently looking at his signed hair in the living room mirror, using his hands gingerly. Earlier that evening, Valen and Amber had accidentally launched an additional firework that had inadvertently gone straight to Lola. Alistair had instinctively jumped in front of Lola and grabbed the thing before it could explode and had managed to toss it away. But as a result, the firecracker had burned his hands. It was probably midnight by now, he realized as he glanced around the room. Raphael had gone to bed early that evening, and Valen was down in with Amber in her lab, doing heaven only knew what. Sky was in the kitchen working on some paperwork for something or another. He jumped when he felt a pair of arms circle around his waist, and he was about to perform a judo flip before a familiar voice whispered, Take it easy, Ninja Man. It's me. Dear God, Lola, I thought you were a burglar or something. How did you get in here? He asked, turning his head to look down at her with a raised eyebrow. Through the window, she replied nonchalantly as she released him. I told Sky that you guys need to lock your windows. Some nutcase is going to break in here one day. And how they'll get in? And how they'll get in? Through the windows. Not that I'm not flattered that you broke in to see me. But why are you here? I thought you went home. She looked down, a blush appearing on her face. To thank you, she whispered. That firecracker was going to... Alistair rolled his eyes. What kind of man lets a firework hit the girl he's dating? Lola's face turned bright red as she looked into his grey eyes, and she bit her lip. Alistair was suddenly quite aware that they were standing quite close to each other, and instinctively found himself leaning forward. Lola was doing the same, and her breathing was a bit heavy as she took a step closer. Best friend walking through, Sky announced as she passed the couple, grinning as the pair instantly took several steps back. Don't do anything I wouldn't do, she called over her shoulder in a sing-song voice, making her way up the stairs and turning the stairs lights off. Lola cleared her throat embarrassedly. So, your hands are okay? Perfectly fine, Alistair clarified, keeping his distance. You don't have to do that, you know. You didn't have to do that, you know, she said softly. As I've said before, what kind of man lets a rough firecracker hit the girl he's dating? There was an awkward pause as the two of them stared at each other, and then Lola moved forward to hug him. Alistair returned it. When he looked down, it was to find Lola's face dangerously close to his. The two of them were leaning forward when the sound of a cell phone broke the silence, effectively causing them to separate once again. Lola took out her phone and glanced at it, her face darkening when she saw who the text was from. Go to sleep, Skylar, Lola hissed indignantly, directing the statement at the stairs. Sky's laughter filtered from the upstairs, which was followed by the sound of a door closing. She's not going to sleep until I leave, Lola grumbled. So I'll talk to you later, she finished awkwardly, her eyes holding a wistful light in them. Alistair watched Lola go through the window, deciding he was annoyed with Sky as he went up the stairs to his room. Morning, Alistair, Sky exclaimed, skipping down the stairs and sliding into the kitchen. All she got in reply was a frosty glare from the redhead. What? She questioned, tilting her head. Lola and I were having a moment, and you ruined it, he said flatly. Oh, come on, I was just teasing you guys, Sky said exasperately. You tease Raphael all the time about him being with me. At least he knows when to shut up. Expect payback, he retorted, turning back to the pancakes he was making. Sighing, Sky left the kitchen and went back upstairs to make her bed. She had forgotten to do that, and she was normally a tidy person. She was finishing up when she heard the sound of someone falling down the stairs, followed by a familiar bout of laughter from a certain Australian. Curious, Sky left her room to see what had happened and went to the top of the stairs. When she saw the sight at the bottom of the staircase, she couldn't stifle her laughter. Raphael, who had apparently just woken up, had slipped down the stairs while going to the kitchen. What really made it funny, however, was the fact that Misha was perched on his head. Raphael had to have been carrying her at some point because she hikely dumped the cat because she hardly doubted the cat had decided to sit on his head because she felt like it. "Not funny," Raphael said, showing her an annoyed expression when she came down in front of him. "It's cute," Sky said, taking out her cell phone and snapping a picture in the same motion before continuing on her way. Raphael pulled the cat off his head gently and set Misha down before following after Sky, easily scooping her into his arms and carrying her into the kitchen. "Just don't post it anywhere online and I'll be content." "Does sending the picture to Lola via text count?" she teased. "Possibly." "Well, too late," she giggled. "What are you going to do about it?" Raphael arched an eyebrow. "I can do plenty," he retorted, kissing her forehead as he set her on the countertop. "I'm just too polite to do much, except for this," he continued, leaning in closer to "roommate walking by. Don't do anything I wouldn't do," Alistair commented sarcastically, opening the fridge and grabbing a water bottle. Sky scolded. "No fair using my words against me," she pouted, folding her arms as Raphael moved off. "Should have thought about that last night," the redhead replied bluntly, walking out of the kitchen once more. Raphael raised his eyebrow. "What was that about?" I interrupted Alistair and Lola's big, "we're totally about to kiss" moment, and I think he's mad at me. Raphael's other eyebrow rose. You think? He asked. "Oh, hush," she said affectionately, jumping off the counter and lightly smacking his shoulder. "Why would you interrupt them anyways?" Raphael continued. "Chances were that's probably the first time they had one of those moments." "Alistair always makes fun of us," Sky pointed out. He played with fire? He got burned. "Do you know that saying can go both ways, Sky?" She replied absently. "Not to mention that Alistair tends to find rather violent ways of getting revenge on those who antagonize him." "Oh." Raphael's POV. Early afternoon found us lounging around the house, each doing something a little different. Alistair was with Lola in the kitchen. She was teaching him how to make sopapillos. Judging by the fact that I'd seen her bringing over a few tortillas and other miscellaneous ingredients, I could assume we were having Mexican for dinner. Valen was playing video games with Amber. I was sitting in my recliner with Misha in my lap, keeping an eye on Sky as I read. It was her turn to dust the furniture, and currently she was dusting the chandelier in the front hall, perched precariously on a ladder. There was a good reason that I was keeping an eye on her. Her ladder was positioned next to the front door. The first time anyone opened it, Sky would tumble off the ladder. I tried getting her to let me dust the chandelier, but she shooed me away. Can you blame me, though? She'll never hear me admit it, but she's accident prone, justifying my concern. And as it turned out, I had every right to be worried. "Howdy, folks," called the clan as he cautionally pushed the door open. I saw Sky fall from the corner of my eye, and I rose to my feet quickly. Lucky for her, though, she grabbed onto the chandelier as the ladder fell and now dangled from the light fixture. Jasper, who had been near the ladder dozing, was now barking furiously at her brother. I managed to grab the lower half of her flailing body, and she let go. I sat her down and gave her a quick once-over with my eyes to make sure that she was okay. But I needed have worried. She was already storming to her brother. You utter jerk! It didn't occur to you that you should knock? She snapped furiously. I almost broke my neck. I didn't think you'd be right. Ow, Sky! Quit beating me! Gran yelped, shielding his face as his sister started beating him with her fist. I reached over and tugged her away from the clan before she killed him. This resulted in her starting to kick the air and hitting me a few times. Not that it bothered me. Being as burly as I am has its perks. Skylar, calm down. Jesus, don't take my head off, muttered Declan, flinching when she shook her fist at him. He cleared his throat. I didn't bother knocking because I know you guys never lock your door. It's polite to knock anyways, she snarled, struggling against me. The clan looked at me appreciatively and whistled. I knew Sky having a boyfriend like you would come in handy one day, he commented. Gee, thanks, I replied dryly. What brings you over here? Oh yeah, nearly had that reason beaten out of me by Crazy over there. I was cleaning out the attic and I found our high school yearbooks, he said brightly, lifting a book up for Sky's inspection. Joy to the freaking world, she grumbled, but at least she stopped kicking me and I set her down. You could have found a way to warn anyone outside that you were on a ladder right inside the door, said the clan defensively. I did. I tapped a sign to the door. Sky snapped indignantly. You mean this sign? You mean this sign? Asked Alistair innocently, as he materialized in the doorway, holding up a paper with Sky's handwriting on it in a bold red ink. Dear me, how on earth did this get in my possession? You fanned, Sky shrieked, starting to run at Alistair. The redhead promptly disappeared from view, my girlfriend hot and pursy. Don't forget paybacks are a bitch. Grant rolled his eyes. At least it's him and not me, he commented, shaking his head pityingly at the retreating redhead. Why did you bring the yearbook over? Why did you bring the yearbook over? I asked curiously, gesturing to the book. I was bored and wanted to humiliate Sky by showing you what she looked like in high school. He shrugged. She always gets touchy about it because she thinks she looks like a dweeb. She doesn't, though. Did you just say yearbook? Valen asked, his head peering around the corner of the basement doorframe. Let me see. I reached over and snagged the book from the clan before he could open it. We'll look at it later, I told him. I let Sky decide if she wanted us to look at her pictures. For now, it would be best not to let Valen look at it. Normal POV. A few hours later, the clan had gone back home, and things around the house had settled down. Well, almost. Sky's phone had not stopped ringing for the past half hour, and it clearly was getting on her nerves. What made things stranger was that the phone calls were all from random strangers. This is annoying, Sky snapped furiously, glaring at her phone. How the hell did these people get my number? Internet? Raphael replied absently, shrugging his shoulders. This earned him a glare from his girlfriend. Has her phone stopped ringing yet? Alistair asked, coming from his room and grabbing a book. It's getting on my last nerves. Raphael noted that the other biker did not look bothered in the slightest. On the contrary, he looked like the cat who swallowed the canary. Skylar did not notice this look on Alistair's face. Though. Her phone started ringing again. Son of a bitch! She grabbed the phone and jabbed the button viciously. Hi, this is Skylar Kaiba. I actually can come to the phone right now with a very special message just for you. She snarled into the phone. Skylar, hang up, sighed Raphael, putting a hand on her shoulder. Don't do something you'll regret. Sky groaned but complied. Sorry, I don't know what got into me, she said with a tired sigh, leaning back into the sofa cushions. Insanity, Alistair replied with a smirk. Raphael shook his head and got up from his recliner, heading into the office. He caught a glimpse of the silent conversation being transmitted via Sky's and Alistair's eyes. He didn't want to stick around to find out what was coming next. Later on that evening, Alistair was calmly listening to his music and enjoying the quiet of the house. Valen had claimed to be feeling sick and had actually gone to bed early, and he was sitting downstairs with Raphael and Sky at the moment. His older friend was reading a book, and Sky had fallen asleep curled up next to him. The tranquility, of course, did not last. We interrupt your regularly scheduled musical selection with a very important announcement, Sky's voice announced through his headphones, causing Alistair to sit up in some alarm. Never engage in a war with a Kaiba. We have the tendency to go nuclear. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the melodious sound of me screaming in your ear. With that parting statement, a high-pitched shriek blasted out of the headphones, causing Alistair to curse and yank the headphones out of his ears. He was certain that the Raphael and Sky had both heard it, judging by the blunt startled look and Sky's all too innocent expression on her sleeping face. Alistair directed a gray-eyed glare at the girl. Okay, kid, that was cute, he began, but is that all you got? At that point, his phone started to ring, and the red-haired biker blinked, reaching for the device. A glance at the caller ID told him that Lola was calling. He picked it up and opened his mouth to answer. And Sky's scream filtered through the phone speaker. Alistair hung up with a sour expression on his face and looked directly at Sky. He knew she was not asleep. All right, Skylar, it's on. I'll be finishing for now, my dear viewers. If you guys enjoyed it, subscribe, hit the like button, and turn on the notification bell. Until next time, bye everyone.